Hi there. We need to talk about Sam Walsh. We need to talk about his magic. We need to talk about where we need to be worried about him. And we need to really understand the energy of this man. And I've looked into his energy a number of times because he is a very interesting birth chart to look at. So let me start off with that. So the first thing that you want to notice is this situation down here. This is very rare. So on the day that Sam Walsh was born, we had a solar eclipse in Cancer. So when we are talking about people that are born during a solar eclipse, there are some particular things that tend to show up. How you see the world, how you experience the world, your ego self, your overall essence, right? Your sun and your moon are conjunct. So it means that your emotional space and how you experience the world are the same kind of energies. So this solar eclipse in Cancer was the first of a cycle. Eclipses come in like a little package group of 5. It takes about 18 months to roll through the eclipse cycle. And we have the nodes, which are the nodes of the moon, which are 2 points of the moon that tell us what kind of eclipses we're having. So during this time, we had the North Node in Capricorn and the South Node in Cancer. I mean that this was a North Node eclipse. So the first of the cycle, a North Node eclipse. And because of that, people who are born under this type of energy, under this sort of eclipse energy, it really gives them a sense of purpose. Okay, it does come with chaos. It means like chaotic change is very likely because eclipses do bring sudden chaotic change. But it does kind of set you up to be someone who has purpose because your sun and your moon, your essence and your emotions are working together. Now, there is a third part for this for Sam, and that is Mars, which is the little red guy over there, right next to the sun. So the sun and Mars were also conjunct at almost an exact conjunction as well. So, and this will depend on time of birth. So please get me your time of birth. I have made guesses based on what I know about your life. So these things I have not made guesses on. There was absolutely a solar eclipse in Cancer on the day that he was born. That does absolutely give you a bit of a sense of purpose. And because Mars was conjunct that eclipse as well, that comes with drive, masculine energy, drive. It comes with being able to feel what you want, experience life that way, and you've got the drive to do so. Also very close by, not quite conjunct, but very close by, were these other 2 placements in Cancer, of which we have got this one here, which is called Priapus, which is the dark masculine energy. And then this one next to it, Venus, also in Cancer. That's about relationships. That's about worth. And Mercury also in Cancer. It was retrograding at 17 degrees, which is our mind, which is our communication. And then the North Node, of course, at 24 degrees in Cancer. Now, just reading that alone, that kind of tells me that he is here to really overcome some woundings of the past, probably generational stuff. There is a healing quality to him, but his sun at 10 degrees is a Capricorn degree, which is interesting in itself because Cancer energy people, they don't find their motivation the same way as everybody else. They have to have an emotional connection to it to be able to find the same kind of discipline and the same kind of drive as everybody else, just depending on your birth chart, of course. And so having the sun and Mars both at 10 degrees, and if he was born at the time of that eclipse, which I'll need a birth time obviously for, then the moon would have also been there at 10 degrees. So that would have had the moon, Mars, and the sun all at 10 degrees, which is Capricorn degree, which is very much about drive, focus, long-term goals. So firstly, people who are born under eclipse tend to be people who have a lot of drive, who have a lot of alignment in their energy system so that they can see things and feel things that they want and go towards it. But because this is at 10 degrees, which is Capricorn degree, that adds a lot more focus to it. And we have this ability and this drive to go towards a long-term goal, which is very helpful, obviously, for what Sam Walsh has chosen for sport. And so that puts his South Node up here in Capricorn. And this just backs me up on how I'm thinking about his big Cancer stellium energy. So having a Capricorn South node means that there's a comfort zone in overworking, because right next door we have this placement here which talks about guilt and shame and the parts of us that we reject. And within that part for Sam, we have this Aries energy, I am energy, and Capricorn energy. So when we look at these two things together, we can see that there is this rejected energy around whether or not he thinks he would ever be able to succeed. And that's where he gets this comfort zone of really being able to work quite hard. Now, 24 degrees is a Pisces degree. Again, Pisces degrees in this space really talk of having to overcome some past traumas, which we can see here right next door, which is his Neptune in Aquarius. Now, I do believe that that does sit in the 10th house. And so overcoming this past trauma about being different to everybody else, maybe being a bit powerless as a child to be able to show what kind of differences you wanted to bring out, because there was a little bit of fear of being seen as too strange. But then we also have Uranus in Aquarius as well. We see things from a completely different perspective. And how we make change is sometimes fast, pivot. Sometimes it's seeing something from a different angle and then all of a sudden making a decision. But it's someone who has a very good mind, someone who can really think things through from a number of different perspectives, which is also quite good because somebody with a Cancer stellium like that can be very stubborn about their beliefs. So having a Uranus in Aquarius is actually quite good. Now, at 20 degrees, which is a Scorpio degree, that is very much about transformation. So the purpose of the way that he evolves is for transformation. We do have Saturn at 26 degrees of Taurus. Now, 26 degrees is a Taurus degree. So this does make him someone who, is very stubborn about his discipline. And Taurus energy is that energy of knowing that you need to work hard to get a reward. So we can really see there that Saturn, who is the planet of discipline, who is the part of our psyche that looks after rules and time and reality and karma and all of those sorts of daddy Saturn things, and that's in Taurus. So very good at setting discipline around how to move through the world, around how to do the work to get the reward. And yeah, money has a part of it. Money is a part of it. This is the second house of worth, so financial worth, but also your self-worth. So this again is another thing that is very good for somebody with a Cancer stellium, because generally Cancer energy people can have a really hard time finding motivation to go and do the hard work. Okay. But this up here almost guarantees it. All right. Especially birth time could put this Saturn in the second house, which means that it has even more of an attachment to his money, which is just another driver for him of success. And Jupiter at 0 degrees, his expansion has to come through collecting information and conversation and speaking up when he needs to speak up. And then over here, what we're looking at is the childhood wound in relation to the father, which is Chiron in Sagittarius, which sort of makes you question your truth. It's almost like a wound of faith. You find it really hard to believe in things outside of solid logical proof. And being at 12 degrees, which is a Pisces degree, there is a trauma-related energy to that. So potentially feeling your truth doesn't have any space in the world in the way that you experienced your father. And right next door, conjunct that Chiron, is Pluto at 10 degrees, which tells me the way that he experienced his father made him realize what was power and what was fear in relation to that truth. And there is a karmic component to the way that he chooses to build his own legacy, that he chooses to put himself forward into the world, and that he chooses to do a really fucking good job. And this is in his 8th house of transformation. So this is somebody who is here to rebuild themselves time and time again. And we can see here that this Pluto energy, it does cause a bit of friction here in his idea of worth and how he needs to take things into his own hands. And the other thing that this Pluto does, which is right here with that father wound space, is it's kind of asking for these adjustments to be made in how he moves forward, right? So we have this father wound here, like not trusting your own truth. And also in Sagittarius energy, I find in clients that have this placement that there does tend to be like the father energy who was not very deep and who was not very willing to find their emotional truth. And with a Saturn in Taurus, that can also be a father who is a lot more focused on reputation or money or surface level things as well, which then we can see that joins up there with the Pluto situation, and it really makes him have to build his own pathway forward through his career and legacy, aside from how he had experienced his father. And having the vertex very close by there, that is like a fated moment. And so this really tells us that some of the ways in which this Pluto placement of power and fear and this father wound placement here get triggered is in relationship dynamics and probably a little bit fiery. But when that does get triggered, it transforms a lot of things. It asks to look into this from the past. Let's look at things from the past where you felt powerless to be yourself, and let's make these adjustments to your emotional space. So Sam is pretty magical. I have never actually met someone who has a stellium like this, who was born on the first of 5 eclipses. One of the things that can come from a solar eclipse, when we think of a solar eclipse, it is the sun and the moon, and one is eclipsing the other. What this can relate to in your life is that even though it gives you this sense of purpose and it gives you a really good quality to be like you're a natural born leader, it often means that you had a parent or a sibling or somebody very close in your life that overshadowed your achievements because they did something quite extraordinary, or they've achieved something huge within their life. And that is always something that you're carrying around, wondering whether or not that's going to be what you can achieve. So maybe it could even be, okay, so if we had the father experience of the father being focused on money, then perhaps, even though Sam was doing really well in the early parts of his career, there wasn't any money. So his father wasn't interested, or he didn't think that there was any stability in that career. So he didn't really try and prop him up for it. It's that kind of an energy. So Sam is someone who will pioneer things. I definitely can see a very high chance of Sam being the captain in 2027 and onwards. Okay, so let me show you the little timeline, okay? Because it's very interesting. So here we go. July 2nd, 2000. This is when Sam was born. He was born on a solar eclipse at 10 degrees of Cancer, 10 degrees being about career, legacy, working hard. It's a Capricorn degree. It sets long-term focused goals. This is the first eclipse of a new cycle, and that does mean that you are someone who really does roll with the eclipse energy. The eclipse energy has a huge say, and because Sam Walsh is a Cancer energy stellium person, that means he's run by the moon, and anyone who is a Cancer energy person has a massive effect when these eclipses come around because the moon is very heavily involved. The eclipse cycles take 9 years to flip and then 18 years to return to where they were. So we had the North Node in Cancer, the South Node in Capricorn. 9 years later, we would have had the North Node in Capricorn and the South Node in Cancer. In 2018, we had these eclipses on the 1st of February and on the 16th of February, one in Leo or one in Aquarius. This was the preseason that Walsh's final year of junior football was, and everyone was talking about how he was the number one prospect. So this energy, very positive for him. Now, with a 12-degree Leo eclipse, it's about the integration of wounds and Leo that affect your ability to shine your creative self, shine your authentic self, to enjoy things for the sake of enjoying them. Then we had the solar eclipse at 27 degrees of Aquarius, and Aquarius energy is about that authenticity. It's about what your creative self has got to give back to the collective. It's about evolution. It's about revolution. At 27 degrees, it's about the information that's been collected. So we had this little eclipse cycle that was talking about, have you integrated any traumas that would have stopped your ability to shine your greatest creative, confident light? And at the other end of that eclipse window, have you got enough information about what your authentic joy and creativity is to be able to move into the next cycle? Okay, which, yeah, I think he probably did. Okay, so then when we get to 2019, we were in between that Leo Aquarius cycle and moving into the Capricorn Cancer cycle again. So that same cycle that was around when Sam was born, we were moving back into it because it's like 18 and a half-ish years between these cycles. So we had on January 6th in 2019, we had a solar eclipse at 16 degrees of Capricorn. We had a lunar eclipse at 1 degree of Leo on the 21st. So 16 degrees, 16 is a Cancer degree. So it is related to all things that Sam is, okay? Capricorn energy. So he was born at 10 degrees, Capricorn degree of Cancer. This eclipse in 2019, 16 degrees, Cancer degree of Capricorn, okay? And this was his first preseason, right in that window. This was when he was like 18 years old. He wins the 2K time trials. Everyone is talking about him. So we see here that energy of the 16 degree Capricorn solar eclipse and then the lunar eclipse in Leo, which are 1 degree is an Aries degree. So it's asking you your I am energy when it comes to your confidence, when it comes to your ego, when it comes to how you show up, when it comes to how you push your creative self out into the world. So then we get down here to 2019. 2019, we are right now back in the same eclipse energy that Sam was born under, okay? So July 3rd, 2019, we had the solar eclipse, 11 degrees of Cancer, which is an Aquarius degree. And then we had July 17th, lunar eclipse, 24 degrees of Capricorn, Pisces degree of Capricorn. So this really is an energy, just that eclipse alone, right? The solar eclipse, 11 degrees of Cancer. So an authenticity, an evolutionary degree, Aquarius degree of Cancer, which is everything that Sam is. And then the lunar eclipse, 24 degrees of Capricorn, which really is telling me that we have kind of learned how to nurture our own authentic gifts, and that we have really understood and integrated all of the lessons that came from rejecting these ideas around success and whether or not we were ever going to achieve success. And so that was the middle of the season, and those energies were fantastic because that solar eclipse at 11 degrees of Cancer, that it was conjunct his sun, his moon, and his Mars, his masculine energy, and all of his other energies very close by. It's very empowering. I'm absolutely not surprised that he had these record-breaking games on and around this eclipse energy, because that energy, huge. He was averaging 25 plus disposals. Everyone was saying he was going to get the rising star now, because how could he not? Then we get to 2020. And in 2020, we had a solar eclipse at 0 degrees of so right at the ending degree. So this was Walsh having a really fucking good game. First win against Geelong in 24 years. Stunning performance. Because again, solar eclipse in Cancer. And everything that Sam is Cancer energy. And he also would have really felt that in his Jupiter, because his Jupiter is at 0 degrees. So this would have been that eclipse energy working hand in hand, being best friends with his luck, his abundance, his growth. It would have helped him see what was getting in the way of that. It would have really empowered him because, of course, we're dealing with someone who is run by the moon. So at 0 degrees, that solar eclipse was trying to make adjustments in his workplace, right? Doing so, working in harmony with who he believes to be. It was causing a little bit of a shakeup in how he shows up in his masculine energy to groups of people, to teams. It was working hand in hand with his good luck energy for reputation, for hard work, for getting reward for hard work, and his good luck energy for money. And all of this eclipse energy happening in his second and third house, which is about his worth, his money worth, his contract worth. In his third house of communication and travel and movement. And that was really working in harmony, but asking him to look at anything that might be stopping him towards going towards his career, which is his choice. So it was asking him to have a look at if anything, any beliefs from his family system were going to be in the way of him choosing what his career was. So then we get to 2021, May 26, lunar eclipse, June 10, solar eclipse. This is where we can see Sagittarius Gemini axis of information. And this is really gaining a lot of information about the potential of Sam. So the eclipses that came in straight after he began his 5-week streak, the eclipses that came in just after that. So we were in eclipse energy for about a month before the eclipse starts up until a month afterwards. If you imagine that the eclipse, so we go May 26th is like the top of a mountain, June 10 is the top of a mountain. So as we're walking up the mountain, the closer we get, the more we feel it. Then we come down the other side, then we go back up the next one. So 2 days before this eclipse, we're very much in eclipse energy. And that's when he hits 33 disposals, he gets 1 goal, and he starts a 5-week streak of averaging 34 disposals. And everyone talks about how he's probably going to get the Brownlow. Now, that eclipse window for Sam was really helping transform some stuff. It was helping him transform this energy around where he doesn't really trust something about himself, his truth when it comes to his legacy, his career. Am I doing the right thing? Do I want to be doing the right thing? So this energy, which really empowered him to see his worth and to take his worth into his own hands. This isn't a moment that was triggered by a fated situation. This was him realizing his worth and stepping into it and really working with his idea of who am I when I'm succeeding? Who am I when I'm shining? Who am I when I'm working? And it was in direct opposition, in a tug of war aspect with that father wound and with that idea of power and fear that triggers these fated moments. And those fated moments and his Pluto, his placement of power and fear, was being lit up by the moon and also by the South Node. He was being shown during that window where he needs to make changes to his own agreements with himself in regards to hard work, legacy, whether or not he believes that he can have any of those things. On the other side of that eclipse portal, on that May June eclipse portal, we see, again, 30 disposals on June 12th, 2 days afterwards. So that whole window for him was a lot of information collecting about things he enjoyed, about what was truth about his hard work, about what was the higher understanding of who he is and what needs to transform in order for him to believe that he can have this success. Then we entered the Scorpio Taurus axis of eclipse. Now, we opened that eclipse axis in November of 2021. And February 2022, we get an ankle injury. Now, Scorpio Taurus axis of eclipse is pretty rough. It's pretty rough for anybody because Scorpio is about transformation. It's about guilt. It's about shame. It's about having to face a lot of those things. So when we get to February 22 and we've opened that axis, we're really looking at some struggling energy. So we're really looking at having to confront inner values when it comes to the rejected self-wound that Sam has. This idea of I'm never going to have individual success. That was being triggered by a number of energies in the universe. And he also was having Pluto in the sky. So one of the big daddies in the sky, the king of the underworld, who makes us look into the shadow, was right on top of his South Node, his comfort zone, the thing that he needs to move away from. The karmic energies, the karmic lessons, the generational and ancestral lessons. So he had all of this energy really making him look into the shadow side, really make him understand how these wounds around not thinking that he'll ever have success, that make him trying extra hard and pushing when he shouldn't be pushing, all of these things were being activated. Now, he was also having activated like a number of areas to do with his discipline, his expansion, his Saturn energy, which is relating to the way you experience the father. It's relating to our discipline. And Sam's Saturn energy was being hit very hard by the North Node that was in Taurus. And Taurus energy talks about working, same day, same grind over and over again. It's about surface level stuff. It's about reputation. For him, it was happening in between reputation and worth. So he's in this point of questioning these things. He's getting triggered by the king of the underworld to look at all of these things that he's fearing and how those fears impact his ability to move forward. At the very least, those sorts of things cause a lot of fuckery in the mind. So you're not thinking clearly. So at that time in February, masculine energy, the king of the underworld, relationships, all of these big energies were in that Capricorn energy in opposition with his overall energy. And the one in particular that's very interesting, because this is the one that we need to watch out for coming up, is Mars, which is the planet of masculine energy. Mars was in Capricorn, making a square to his 6th house. And the 6th house and 6 degrees, these numbers are very much related to the body. And you see in people's charts all the time, that's the place that gets activated when an injury is likely. Okay. And then if we look at where Neptune was, because Neptune was in Pisces, Pisces rules the feet. And Neptune was in the 11th house, so teams of people. And that was having an effect on the way that his mind works, quite literally. And it was causing friction involving where we need to speak up when we need help. So just hold on to that little Mars piece of information for now. October, November of 2022, not great. We're still in the Scorpio-Taurus axis of eclipse, which seemingly from my research, not great for Sam, not great. And Scorpio energy is about death and rebirth. One of its rulers is Pluto, so it's very much in that dark space. Taurus, ruler is Venus, so it's in the light space. This was really an eclipse that happened between the dark and the light, and we were trying to find our worth, 2 degrees Taurus degree, in the dark, and we were trying to find our nurturing, 16 degrees Cancer degree, in the light, right? Security in the light, find our worth in the dark. And Scorpio being ruled by Mars and Aries, they are very much linked. Mars is a ruler of Aries, so that Mars-Aries energy is very much linked to surgery, is very much linked to drastic things happening to you. Now, when we had this eclipse for Sam, this was all moving through his relationships and really looking at his money, his worth, his reputation, all of these sorts of things up in the air, trying to get adjustments in the things that get in his way, needing back surgery because why the injury to the back gets in his way, making these adjustments to teams, groups of people, and how he finds his place within those groups of people. And it's trying to shift mentalities that have come from traumatic situations in his family or ancestry or generations. So this was some pretty big energy for him. Back surgery, right? And I want you to keep that in mind as well. So let's go to 2023. We moved into the Aries Libra axis. Now, Aries Libra axis is about movement and balance. It's about me and you. It's about the give and the take of your life, of the world. Okay. So we moved into that. That was a preseason that Sam wasn't around because of his injuries. This is also not a great axis of eclipse because when the eclipses are happening in Libra and Aries, Sam, as a Cancer stellium, he deals with a square. And a square in astrology is friction. Okay. Friction, it's obstacles that get in your way. It's very irritating. It's very conflict driven. So a lot of his energy when we're in the Libra Aries axis is in a square and it's causing friction. So when we get to the April-May eclipses that were happening in Aries at 29 degrees, which is a crisis degree, and in Scorpio, which is about death and rebirth and shame and guilt and darkness, at 15 degrees, Gemini degree. We're sort of information collecting in a dark spot, okay? Because 15 degrees, information collecting, Scorpio, kind of darkness, looking for where we need to transform. Now, that 29-degree Aries solar eclipse is really asking, like, you need to find yourself. You need to find yourself, is what that says. And so that really kind of tells me that that was one of the questions that was being put to Sam while he was dealing with all of these injuries, that he needs to find himself. He needs to find his own motivation, his own validation, his own reward system outside of whatever beliefs he's hearing externally. Okay. So when we got to these eclipses and Sam was sidelined for the first 4 rounds during that window of eclipse, one of the things that it was trying to help him with, and I'm saying help, but that can be, one of the things that it was trying to help him with was his reputation and his fortune. And it was making these squares to this overworking energy in his karmic past. It was working very comfortably with his house of transformation. It was in opposition with the way that he relates to other people and how he relates to other people based on things that he grew up experiencing. And it was trying to make adjustments in how he takes into his own hands the judgment of himself. So it was asking him to change the way that he judges himself based on information that he had collected. And it was trying to show him where, when he gets triggered into a point of overthinking, overanalyzing, and criticizing himself, that is like the remnants, firstly, of the idea of worth that came ancestrally or generationally. And it also shows up for him within groups of people, within teams of people. And it was working with his energy around discipline and hard work. And it was trying to help him find balance in that, okay? When he was not playing between March and April of 2024. So there was a purpose to that energy, because at the same time as that, of that eclipse, he was working through, Mars was working through, so Mars, the planet of motivation and masculine energy, was working through his chart in the places that his own Mars is, right? So we had Mars moving through his worth, and then it entered into next to his moon, his Mars, his sun, and it started moving across there and activating all of these things to change, to be motivated, okay? And he also we had Lilith in the sky and this was the day of that April 9th eclipse, Lilith in the sky at 10 degrees of Leo. So having us question where we are confident enough to go towards our goals and our legacies. And for him, that was hectically making transformation energy to his underworld space, to the places that he sees as power or fear. And it had a lot to do with leftover programming of him feeling a little bit too strange, too weird, and was kind of powerless to be himself. So he was really being, and in a very strange way, I know, but the universe is like that, being supported to find himself, to be himself, to find a way to motivate himself towards success without throwing himself under a bus. Okay, so then we get to the start of last year, which we know wasn't great. At the end of 2024, we shifted out of Aries Libra and we moved into Virgo Pisces, which is the axis of service and healing. So we move into that and we get this hamstring strain. Now, on the day that we got this hamstring strain, you can see I've written all of those little notes down there for myself. There was a number of things going on that are particularly interesting to note, which is we had the Cancer moon and Mercury in Capricorn in an opposition, in a tug of war, and they were in a tug of war at 6 degrees. So what that means for Sam is that moon was talking to his overall primal masculine energy. It was talking to his idea around how he motivates himself towards career and legacy things. And it was in a direct opposition with his rejected self around success, which was being activated by a moment of fate in the sky, which was trying to change his values around what hard work and success looks like for him. He also had the sun right on top of his south node, so really lighting up the ways in the past that has gotten in his way. And it was trying to cause all of these shifts internally. So it was a little bit of a warning for him. Okay, there was a little bit of a warning for him, being that when the Virgo energy gets activated, which we're about to see again, so keep that in mind, okay? When the Virgo energy gets activated, it does bring into the light habits, health habits, maybe where you're doing too much, maybe where you're not doing enough. I don't think that's a problem for Sam. And so this is an axis that is trying to show Sam where he's doing too much, where he judges himself too much, where he critiques himself too much to his own detriment. And because he had the sun looking at these things from the past, he had all of this information about where those values had come from. And it was really helping him see what parts of these comfort zone things, this overworking energy, these karmic gifts, which parts of those things I'm keeping and which parts of those don't align with me. And it was trying to show him where he needs to take his worth into his own hands and know when enough is enough. Okay, so really triggered in that moment. But I do want to just point out the Cancer moon was at 6 degrees. Mercury was at 6 degrees. Okay, 6. Then when we got to 2025, now March of 2025, just firstly, energy-wise, was off the fucking chain with changes, big, massive changes. And it was putting a lot of people at risk of injuries, okay? Now, Sam in particular, because this was the solar eclipse in Aries, which closed out that Aries portion. So that officially closed out the Libra Aries portion. We moved into the Pisces Virgo portion, and Pisces rules fate. And what happened to Sam is a bone stress situation in his foot. So this is a couple of things. This is a little hint of some of the energy that we're about to experience, because Neptune also moved to Aries around that time as well, within a couple of days. And that's like a big 160-year shift. And we have just moved back into that now. Okay. 9 degrees is about values, and Aries energy is about your I am energy. So we went into the Libra Aries cycle at 2023, where what happened in 2023? Missing because of an injury, sidelined because of injuries, missing, sidelined. So we had all of this energy, 2023 to 2024. We're in the Libra Aries cycle. Okay. And all of that was not great for him. Okay. Then we get to 2025. He gets another warning as we shift into the Virgo Pisces axis. Virgo ruling health and habits, Pisces ruling illness, illusion, delusion, escape behaviors, addiction. And if you were going to say that Sam had an addiction to anything, it would be an overworking. So trying to be shown that. Then we get these eclipses, the foot situation goes down, and now it's now. Basically, this was the warning. This was, be careful, you need to be changing some stuff. And Virgo Pisces axis, it wants that. Pisces wants you to integrate all of the things that you've learned from all of the trauma situations you've been in, and it wants you to find wisdom in it. It wants you to find your own way of doing things. And Virgo wants you to do your habits, right? Write your list. How is your material world? How's your physical world? How's that now going to respond to all of this internal change that you have been working on? So yeah, this solar eclipse that closed everything out for Sam, that was happening mostly in his subconscious space. And he had a lot of energies within his groups and teams of people that were asking for more discipline, that was asking for him to really be able to speak up when he feels that he needs to, when something is wrong, that really was asking him to value his own creative self, to value himself in a way that was loving towards him. And we also, of course, had Neptune move into Aries. And at 0 degrees for Sam, that is a great space for it to be. Neptune moving into Aries and being at 0 degrees for Sam is working really well with his Jupiter placement, which Jupiter is about expansion and luck. And it's also working really well for him with his North Node, what he's here to do, what lessons he's here to do. So having Neptune in Aries is actually quite good for him. It does also cause like a bit of a tug of war energy in where he critiqued himself. So it does kind of remind him that we're not going to do that again. And it does ask for adjustments in the parts of him that he rejects around his truth, around shame, and the parts of him that he rejects because of some ideals from his family space. Then we come into this year, 2026. Now, the first eclipses that we are going to have are going to be the solar eclipse at 29 degrees of Aquarius. And then we're going to have a lunar eclipse at 13 degrees of Virgo. Now, here's something very fucking interesting about the eclipses that we are about to have, and I'm going to pop back and show it to you, is that we are about to have a 29-degree Aquarius eclipse. Now, the other end of Aquarius is Leo. So if we go back to here, we look at the top there, 2018, we had a 27-degree Aquarius eclipse. Sam doing really well. We had a 1-degree Leo eclipse. So 29 is one end, 1 is the other end. And also doing very well. So when we get to here, we're in some similar energy. However, because we're having a Virgo eclipse here as well, this is my concern. So on the day of this eclipse, and this is what I'm worried about. I'm going to show it to you. Hold on. Now, we know that a lot of the injuries were involving Mars. A lot of the injuries are involving 6 degrees, the 6th house, Virgo energy. And we know that. Okay, so let me pop you back over to his chart because this is what I'm worried about. This is Mars. Mars will be at 19 degrees, which is a Libra degree, which asks the question of give and take. This Mars is going to be conjunct Sam's Uranus at the transformation degree in his 10th house of career. At the same time as that, the vertex in the sky, which is a fated moment out of your control, working with Pluto over here at 4 degrees, so talking about our family, is also conjunct Neptune, his karma. 5 degrees, the places that you were powerless as a child. Neptune, trauma, karma, also illusion, delusion, all of those things, right? So this point of fate in the sky, working with the king of the underworld, is triggering some kind of karmic energy. That karmic energy for Sam is trying to, see this, cause some kind of adjustment in this energy around his moon, his energy around his emotional space. That's also at a transformation degree. Now, it's also over here trying to show us where that point of trigger, when it comes to his worth, gets activated, and he does a loop, a repetitive pattern, right? Something that's not good for him. And this as well does not make me very happy, which is this vertex in the sky coming through his karmic family energy, making this square here to his reputation, how he's being seen, how people see him in the world, which is where his fortune with money is. And that, to me, my friends, reads like a freaking injury, because over here, what number is this? 6 degrees. Sagittarius at 6 degrees. Now, this is Lilith. So this is the rejected self around truth. 6 degrees is the physical life, how it affects your physical life. This is about the rejected truth around what sort of physical experience you should be having in the world. Okay. Now that Lilith is conjunct his vertex, so his point of fate. So it's causing a fated moment in his house of transformation. And it's doing so there with the father word. Now, it's squaring down here where he critiques himself too much in the past. It is squaring over here where he has had trauma relating to relationships with people, specifically in team environments. It's causing an opposition down here to his worth, of where he needs to take his worth into his own hands when he's in relationship dynamics where he needs to speak up. It's kind of saying like something here gets in the way of your expansion. And I don't like it. I don't like it. Okay. I don't like it. And then if we go to the March eclipse, all of this shit is happening in his 11th house of teams. Okay. And there's a lot of Pisces energy involved because the sun will be in Pisces. And we know that so far in the Pisces eclipse cycles, we have had hamstring strain, we have had bone stress in the foot. So I'm not happy about this, okay? Because with the Virgo eclipse happening between 12 and 13 degrees, 12 degrees is a Pisces degree, so it's about integration and trauma and wounds, and also it rules the feet. It's the sun at 12 degrees, the Pisces degree of Pisces. It's causing an opposition to his 5th house of fun and pleasure. It's causing a square to his transformation energy, which is being activated by that rejected self wound. It's causing a square to his money house, right? Now it is working in harmony here. This does give me hope, working in harmony here with this, okay? So with the rest of his energy. So the Virgo eclipse, I'm not as concerned about as the other eclipse, because this Virgo eclipse seems to be more about trying to ensure that moving forward, he doesn't fall back into overworking patterns, right? But the one on the 17th is not about that at all. The one on the 17th is much more about him getting injured. I don't like it. Having Lilith at 6 degrees, having that activation in the house of transformation, having all of the things working the way that they were working, I don't like it. I don't like it. The bright side is if he does play Sydney and Richmond, that's a really good sign, because this Virgo eclipse is the fixer for him, right? The Aquarius eclipse, I don't want you to play. I don't want you out there. I want you taking a rest. That's too much. I don't want it. The Virgo eclipse, though, if we get to the Virgo eclipse and we are good to go, and there are no injuries around, and we play Sydney and we play Richmond and Sam plays both and everything is fine, good, great, excellent. That kind of means that that Virgo eclipse cycle has done its fucking job, which we know did what? Oh, hamstring strain, bone stress in the foot, okay? So we know that it did all of these things. And if we make it through that, then we are smooth sailing. But as you can see, I've also noted this down here, this injury danger. I don't want him playing there. Okay. I don't want him playing there at all. That's a Pisces eclipse at 5 degrees, which if we go back, of course, when we started the Pisces eclipse, we had all of the injuries. So I don't want that. I don't want any playing there. He needs to be, no, because 20 degrees is a Scorpio degree, death and rebirth. 5 degrees, again, it's relating back to the feelings of powerlessness as a child, and Pisces, of course, rules the feet. Injuries, okay? So I don't want him playing there. But let's finish up on a positive, which is my belief that the astrology basically predicts that Sam Walsh will become captain if he re-signs with Carlton, which I think we will see that happening pretty soon, to be honest, because we've now had Saturn enter Aries, which does the same amazing things to his Jupiter placement, which is luck. So he's building something new that's coming in with luck, right? And it is making this trine to his 8th house of transformation, which is where his Pluto is, which is where we find out about contracts that we sign in our life. And then Pluto in the sky is going to be on his Neptune, on his MC career line. Okay, let me show you that so you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about here. Pluto in the sky. And this is his Neptune, right? This is 10th house of career, Pluto in the sky, Neptune. So we're writing a new contract here. Writing a new contract. So that's going to be directly conjunct, because this will be fun timing wise. Pluto will be directly conjunct his Neptune on the 19th of February, 2027, which is probably when we're going to find out that we're going to be moving into 2027 with him captain, just saying. Just saying, but we have to make it through these fucking eclipses first. Okay, so let me show you what I think the very interesting and potentially good news is. Let's look at this. So these are the eclipses that I think are going to be incredible for Sam, because we already have information from the past when we were in the Cancer Capricorn energies. Okay, so we're going to have a 26-degree Capricorn eclipse July 18th. And we had a 16-degree Capricorn eclipse in his first preseason. And then we had a 24 degrees Capricorn eclipse, Rising Star Award. So then the other interesting thing is, normally when we get an eclipse window, we get 2 eclipses. In 2027, we're going to have a 3 eclipse window, which is going to be anarchy, because this is going to be the end of a cycle and the start of a new one. And so we're going to have Capricorn eclipse that starts the new cycle. Then we're going to have 10 degrees Leo eclipse. Now that for Sam as well is going to be huge, because his sun, his Mars, potentially his moon based on birth time, his Pluto, all of these things are at 10 degrees. Like this, Sam will be captain. And if he doesn't sign with us, he will be very good at another team. So please sign him up. Because 10 degrees, that's his degree, right? That's his thing. That's his number. He's here for that. So then we go the 24 degrees Aquarius eclipse, which for Sam is also incredible, because part of his rejected self, wounding kind of stuff that affects his career comes from ancestral energy, comes from generational energy, comes from parental energy. And 24 degrees being the final Pisces degree says that that's been learned, and now we are fully embodying our authentic nature, fully embodying the gifts that come with knowing what your authentic nature is. Okay, now that whole little eclipse cycle for Sam is going to be really positive. So then if you look to 2018, which was right preseason. So we're dealing with preseason where everyone thought he was the best, and then his actual preseason. So preseason of his junior football club, and then first preseason as an AFL player. And that was 2018. And in 2018, we were dealing with Cancer energy, solar eclipse, which is the opposition of the Capricorn energy, and of course Cancer energy, everything that Sam is. And on all of the Cancer energy eclipses, he has had an incredible game. Like the best games that he has had have been on Cancer eclipse games. Okay, so we're on the other end of that in 2027. We're sort of seeing the results. So Cancer to Capricorn. Cancer is your inner world. Capricorn is your outer world. Cancer is your home life. Capricorn is your business life, your work life, your social life. So in 2018, he accepted what he was here to do. And we had the Aquarius eclipse at 5 degrees, which is a Leo degree. And we had the Leo eclipse at 19 degrees, give and take. So the give and take of how you show up and how you present your authentic energy, where for Sam, there were parts of that energy that there was powerlessness around as a child, his authentic energy. And so his truth here was about inside, he knew what he wanted to do. Okay. So 2027 is going to show that up. 2027 is going to provide those results. And then when he was born, this was the eclipse cycle that he was born under. A 10 degree Cancer, 10 degree Capricorn degree. Also, a 24 degree Capricorn eclipse and an 8 degree Leo eclipse, 8 degrees, transformation degree, Scorpio degree. So the legacy that he's here to do has to come from this point of joy for him, has to come from this point of really integrating and understanding the way in which his system tells him that he'll never have success, or he needs to work harder, and he needs to work with his idea of ego and confidence and showing himself. He needs to work within those kind of spaces of, how do I do that? How do I learn how to not overwork, because this is what I want to do? So how do I have an emotional connection to the thing that I want to do without overworking to the point of grinding myself into the ground? And so then in 2018, he has this internal realization of what he would like to have, which gets him into AFL. And that final eclipse in that little portal, that 19-degree Leo, now says, well, we have to balance out the give and take of ego and confidence. And then we sort of see that play out throughout his career, where he starts off very big. Then we start getting some harsher lessons about judging ourselves, and we start seeing injuries coming around. And so this is like the repeat of the energy that we got when he was born in so many ways in 2027. It's coming full circle. It's bringing him towards something so that he then moves into the next part, right? So that will be excellent. And I think we are going to have a Sam Walsh captain. I can see it pointing that way, and I will be shocked if it's not. So that's my little Sam Walsh ramble. And if you're watching this, Sam, you need to take a seat. You need to take a seat around February 17th. Okay. And if you want to know exactly why and where and how all of these things will happen, you need to give me your birth time. Taking a seat, please, around February 17th. Being extremely careful around March 3rd. And if we get Sydney, Richmond, everything is good, then we are smooth sailing, baby. That's what I've got for you. Let's get into the season. Stay with.